Hi everyone, it's Mojaxx. I'm in the lab today and I'm very excited. Why? Because I've got the Pioneer DJM-900 SRT mixer. That's it. I'm super psyched to play with this. Three reasons really. Firstly, this is one of only two mixers on the market which supports Serato DJ rather than Scratch Live. Secondly, it's the only mixer so far ever made by a manufacturer apart from Rain, which supports Serato software natively at all. So that's a big deal in the industry. And thirdly, I'm a Pioneer user when it comes to mixers. I use gear from all different manufacturers. I use Serato, Traktor, Vestack stuff. I've got loads and loads of different gear from all different people, but when it comes to a mixer, my tech rider says I've got to have a Pioneer DJM-700 or above. The 800, 850, the 900, the 750. Actually, any of those will be, that's what I need in the club, simply because I'm really comfortable with using those. The layouts are the same on each of them. You've got the 4-channel layout, you've got the same layout for the EQs, for the gain controls, for the faders, the crossfader assign, everything on there. The effects section, all really similar. You know, if you know how to work it on one of those mixers, you're going to be able to work it on one of the other mixers. So that's why I always insist on Pioneer. I think the sound quality is great when they're run through a system that's, you know, properly tweaked and set up for Pioneer mixers. They sound amazing and they give me all the functions that I need, the effects in particular, especially now with their post fader effects, which is exactly what I use a lot of. So yeah, I'm just excited to get my hands on this. Now, I'm going to do two parts to this video because effectively this is a DJM-900 Nexus, but with Serato put in instead of the Native Instruments compatibility. So the actual features and so on are exactly the same. So if you're familiar with that 900 Nexus, which has been around now for like nearly 3 years, I think, then, you know, a lot of it's going to be no news to you at all. But if you are new to the Pioneer range or the Nexus in particular, then, you know, you might want to see some of the other features because there's a lot of cool stuff on this mixer. So we'll get into the Serato stuff now and we'll move on after that. Okay, so let's start by looking at which features on the mixer actually interact directly with Serato DJ on the computer. Well, what we've got then, we've got 4 channels in the middle and we've got 4 selectors on each one. So we've got digital input for your CDJs on the back, we've got CD line input, you've got phono, and you've got USB. And when it's switched to USB, that means that you're actually receiving audio into the mixer from the software itself. So that'll give you 4 decks in total. Now, what we can do, if we switch to the USB there on deck 1, which is channel 2 on the mixer, it does make logical sense that when you are actually playing with it, it doesn't, you know, channel 2, channel 3, and it's deck 1 and deck 2, but it's the middle 2 are the main 2 decks. You know, it does make sense when you're actually using it. It's a bit of a weird thing to get your head around, but you'll see if you switch over to phono, then it just goes to through mode in the software, so you can play regular vinyl straight through the mixer. When the computer is attached, it's not going to have a problem with that. You can play a CD, and you can play a CD through the digital as well. So you've got that option there to use very simply. So I'm just going to set those all over to USB, and that's now receiving from the software itself. USB port is positioned on the top, so if it's installed somewhere you can't get around the back of the mixer, then you can easily just get in there from the top. Hasn't got the 2 USBs as found on some of the newer devices, but you know, it's not something you can't work around. Obviously you've got sources hooked up, you can easily switch over, play a real vinyl record, you can play a CD or whatever through there, or something from Record Box quite happily. And that's the other thing, this is, you know, fully Record Box compatible in the same way as the DJM-900 Nexus. So you've got the attachment for your Ethernet cable on the back, run that to a hub, run your 4 CDJs into it at once, and all controlled via Record Box. Fantastic. I don't have any Record Box stuff here to actually demonstrate that with, but you know, I've seen it working, I've used it, it's wicked. Not my taste. I like to have my laptop when I have, you know, Serato or Traktor is my jam. That's how I get down. But you know, if you're a Record Box person, or if you're installing this in a club, multiple users using different technologies, that's going to work really well for you. Now, one thing you will notice is there is nothing on this mixer in terms of playback controls. So looping and, you know, effects and cues and all that sort of stuff, browsing, none of that is possible from the mixer. And so Pioneer have bought out the DDJ SP1, which is their sort of add-on controller to use with this. You can also use that with basically any other controller. I've been using it with my all-in-one controllers. You can use it with anything that Serato DJ supports. It's an add-on controller. Works really well with this. I'm going to do a separate video about that afterwards because, you know, I don't really want to get into the weeds doing that at the same time. Right now we're all about DVS and this 900 SRT. That's where I'm at right now. So once we've got all that hooked up then into the system, then yeah, Serato DJ will just appear with its regular decks there, left and right. I've got 2, and you can see we've got actually 4 there ready to go. Now you see one is saying record. We'll get that to that in a minute. So we go into, we've got relative mode and absolute mode, just like in Scratch Live. So those are still there, and you've got internal mode as well, which will give you the pitch fader and so on, and the actual playback controls to use. So you can select any of those for any setup that you've got going. Now in my case, we've got the relative mode because we're using turntables, and we'll just show you, this is the setup screen then. So we've got the calibration for each deck, exactly like Scratch Live, so you can adjust the balance on that, you can adjust the threshold for each one, and you can then see the actual, let's just get that going. There we go, you can see the scopes on there, so I just need to tweak that scope a little bit. These needles could do with replacing, I think. There we go, and I'll do the same on the other deck as well. Just get that playing. And that one's not too bad. Give it a little tweak. But again, all completely accessible from that one setup screen, nice and easy to see. And we'll go back and we can see that's just running very, very much like Scratch Live. You know, there's very little difference in terms of the actual usage. There are some things that are missing from Serato DJ. There are some things that are added to Serato DJ, but that's kind of a different story. We're talking about this mixer right now. But as you can see, it's just working straight out of the box. It is just there. I've plugged in my decks, no external box needed, no problem at all. It's just worked. Now that is what you're looking for, especially if you're going to turn up at a club and rely on this thing to use, then that is what you need. So I'll just get going now. Just to let you know, I'm using the new EP from James Wilson on Warp Bridge Records. Thank you to them for letting me use their music as always. Check it out when it gets released. It's out pretty soon. So let's just go through and just see how this all works with the actual software itself. So we've got DVS there now in Serato DJ, and I'll just go back to the beginning. It just works like Scratch Live did. You know, it's all there. You've got the little red bar, the little scope, just to see what you're doing there. But you've got your slip mode, you've got all your cues and loops, all accessible quite easily. Now where the mixer comes into play then is that we've got this here, we've got the effects. Now I've got these assigned to crossfader A and crossfader B, and I've actually got the effects on crossfader A at the moment. And what you can see there, you might not be able to see that terribly well, but this is actually locked to the grid. Now what I can do, just hit the grid there, and that will quantize exactly, and you'll see if I move the pitch up and down on this deck, this is not relying on any kind of internal BPM detection. This is just getting the information straight from Serato DJ and the grid information, so it's quantizing to the grid absolutely perfectly. So if I hit an echo, I've just got an echo there, and I'm just going to hit it on the one or on the half. And it's adjusting even as it fluctuates ever so slightly, because I'm using obviously vinyl decks and there is a bit of wow and flutter and so on, so it's just fluttering a little bit. So, but that is always locked. And that is seriously impressive, because the Pioneer detection when it comes to BPM is pretty good. It's one of the best out there, I think, from my experience. That's another reason I use their mixers. It just picks up stuff really quickly. You can do manual adjustments very simply just by holding down the tap and turning the time, and then the auto as well, and that'll get you in the 10th of the BPM and so on. But on this, it's not relying on any beat detection at all. However random your music is, if you've got the right BPM set in Serato DJ, then that will just lock to it, and it will stay locked as well, which is amazing. You know, I use effects a lot, especially echoes and delays and that sort of thing. So for me, that's just really impressive to have that and just not have to worry about it. You know it's going to be right. If your grids are right, and I spend a lot of time getting my grids set properly, then that is going to work absolutely perfectly every time. So I'm really, really digging that very much. Now I said earlier on I was recording, so if we look into the recording tab there in Serato DJ, you'll see I'm recording the mix output, and that is coming straight in at record level from the mixer itself. Now how do we get to that? Well, what we do, we go into the setup screen and we've got the DJ preferences. This is all pretty standard stuff. We get into CD vinyl. This is like the old Scratch Live setup, so you can adjust the loops of vinyl. You can drop to absolute position, so you can drop to, if you lift up the needle and drop it back, even if you're in relative mode, if you drop it back at the beginning, it will go back to the beginning of the track, or you can drop to the cue point. So that's something I don't really use, because I always use cues. I use dicers or I use an external controller. We go into the audio tab here, and then what you can do, we've got the setup there, so deck setup with turntables. You can have all turntables, you can have all CDJs, or you can customize it. And what will happen when you customize is it will open up the setting utility in Pioneer's own software there, and you can see that's basically, so we've got the mixer input, and you can select which one's going where. So if we just turn that there, well, that's a bad noise, there we go. But you can see that will turn, that's the timecode noise from Serato DJ. If you're not familiar with that noise, it's lovely. So you can select in there what's coming into the mixer, and then the output from the mixer. So what we've got there is deck 3, we've got USB is coming in, it's a control tone from the CD and line. Channels 2 and 3, we've got phono inputs, and then what I've done is set the channel 4 to be our record output. So I can't actually use channel 4 at the moment and as a mixing channel, because I've set that to record output. So we've got that so that we can change that to any of those that we want in there. Any of those we can set to anything we want, which is absolutely just detailed, in depth. It doesn't have any problem setting this up. It's really easy to use, really just kind of intuitive to work with. So you could put that onto any unused channel basically. You know, you could have the mix record out going to, if you only use decks 2 and 3, you could set it to number 1. If you want to use the left 2, you know, whatever you want to do basically, you can set it up. So I've got my recording going in there very simply, and you can also set that record channel in the actual software itself without even opening that up. The only reason I've had to open that up is because I've got a custom setup with 1 line input and 2 phonos, and then I've got the record channel, so it just works really simply. And that's it. Now, you know, in terms of the actual way it works with DVS, you've got sync there now, which is just like a simple sync. It just basically lets you, so I can just drop in, just stop that there. I'm going to change the pitch on the turntable. I'm going to hit sync on the left deck. Go back to the start on that one. And now I'm going to hit sync on there, and that is now going to match the BPM. Still have to ride the pitch, you still have to sort of phase it in and out. It's not perfect because it is a turntable, it's not a perfect BPM lock all the time. If you're on CDJs or something, it'd be more perfect than that. But there it is, it's just working a treat. All the features of Serato DJ that you might be used to if you're using controllers and so on, but it's there on DVS, works just perfectly. Well, there we go. That's the Serato DJ compatibility side of it pretty much covered there. You know, first time I used it, I had to install a driver. So, but I didn't have to go online for that. I plugged in the mixer, Serato DJ 1.5.1, said you need the driver. It installed it. I didn't have my Wi-Fi on or anything. It just worked for me straight away, installed, and off we went. You just hook up your sources to the back with CDJs or turntables up to 4. Any combination of those is going to work absolutely fine, because as we've seen in the setup screen, you can choose your own custom setup for that without any hassle, and it just works. It sounds great coming through the mixer, and the effects stuff works really great. So in terms of being a Serato DJ product, this thing is the business. It's really, really good. Now I'm going to wrap up then the Serato DJ side of it, and I'm just going to get into this as a mixer in general and show you some of the other bits in part 2 of the video. Okay, so let's look at the actual mixer itself then. Basically, as I said at the start, this is got all the features of the DJM-900 Nexus. Now, so if you're familiar with that, then you are not going to learn a lot from this. But if you haven't used the Nexus, then you know this is going to expand your horizons a little bit, because this thing does a lot of stuff. It's a really busy mixer, lots going on, but still really accessible. So let's go, and we'll just kick the track off to start with. So what we've got is the 4 main channels. obviously with gain controls on each one, and you've got VU meters on each channel as well as the VU meter for the master. We've also got the EQs, high, mid and low. They go +6, and then you can switch how much they cut. So it's either EQ setting, which is -26 dB on each one, or you can set that to isolator, and then that will completely kill all the frequencies as you go down. Then each channel's got its own cue. You can cue them all together or separately, however you want. You've got master cue as well, which has got a knob to blend between cue and master. And also you can do split cue there as well. And you can also cue the link. Now that's for your record box setup. If you've got a laptop in play and you've got 4 decks all running, you can actually cue stuff from the laptop whilst you're playing on all 4 decks at once. So it's really sweet to do that. Or if you've got 2 decks and a laptop with record box running, then it'll all link together really nicely. You've also got the fader start buttons here. These will work not only with your record box CDJs, but also will work with Serato DJ. So if we hit fader start on number 2, put it down, it'll go back to the start of the track and then drop in as soon as you move the fader up, which is really cool. Each channel is assignable to A, B or through, so you can have it either side of the crossfader or disregard the crossfader. And it's a nice fader. It's a really quite a sharp cut on there, really nice feel. It's a magnetic fader in the crossfader. They've got the P-lock fader caps which aren't coming off. You know, I'm sure we've all been across that in clubs where you come across a mixer and it's got like 3 fader caps missing or something. It's a nightmare. So that just doesn't happen with the 900 series, which is really good. You've got your regular controls for the crossfader curve. You can do a smooth, blend, right through to the cut. And the same thing on the up faders as well. You've got booth monitor output on TRS jacks. You've got the mono and stereo switch there right in the middle on the mixer. You've got balance to go left and right, obviously, and the master level there as well. You've also got your mics. You've got 2 microphones, one on top with a combo jack and one on the rear as well, both of which are adjustable from here, both of which share the same EQ setting there, high and low. And you can have the on, off or talk over mode as well. So when you talk, it ducks the volume right down for you. So that's the kind of main mixer bits. Then we get into the really cool stuff on here, which is the effects section. So we've got 2 effects sections. We've got sound color effects, and these come first in the chain. So basically you've got your deck, and then on each deck you apply a sound color effect, and then after that will go to the beat effects on the right hand side. So let's just start with a few of these. So we've got the space effect, kind of a little echoey kind of thing. Sounds really good. High pass and low pass on either side. Then you've got the dub echo, which is like that kind of unquantized, kind of old reggae style echo. Then we've got a gate compressor, which is like the pumping sort of sound. All of this, remember, quantized through Serato DJ or through record box. You've got the noise effect, and I'm actually going to use the noise effect on an extra channel because what we can see there, you just turn it up. You don't need a source to be playing, you can just run the effect on its own. And because of the way these are routed into the beat effects, I'll just show you quickly. We go to a transform on the beat effects, and then we can use a transform on that white noise and really chop that white noise up. You can use any of those effects on that white noise itself, so it becomes like an extra source almost for you. Really, really good. And then the crush effect, which is just a good old bit crusher rather. All these just go both ways. And then we've got the filter, which to be honest is what I see these set to most of the time. You walk in the club and that one's flashing away because people love a good filter. Resonance is pretty nice on this one, not too harsh. And yeah, so why not have a filter set all the time? Change it when you need to, but otherwise, yeah, just leave it on that. It's great, fantastic, really useful. So we move over to the beat effects then. So obviously that's all feeding into this section over here, and this will be very familiar to you, whichever of the sort of 4-channel DJM mixers you've used. It's all pretty much the same sort of setup. Post fader on here, so I'm set to, on channel 2 for example, we've got just a delay. There's not post fader on the up and down, but if you put it onto the crossfader, across, and the echo there with the tail. So if you're clever about how you route effects, you can have post fader on everything. Spiral effect. Breaking down or building up the track as you want. Pretty hardcore sound going on there. Reverb. Good old reverb. And again, these are all quantized, you know, they're all locked to the BPM that you're actually playing your track at with Rekordbox and with Serato DJ, which is a real bonus. Transformer. Lock that down. Auto filter. Up and down. Flanger, the most overused effect in all of DJing. We'll move on from that one. And the phaser. Pretty similar sort of thing. And then the robot. Crazy pitch up and down basically on there. Melodic. Very interesting. Slip roll. Slightly new take since the DJM-900. Slip roll is pretty cool sound. Along with your regular roll, which just rolls the actual length as it should. And reverse roll as well. And then finally you've got your MIDI LFO and send and return. So you can use the jacks on the rear of the mixer over here to set up your send and return signal to your effects unit like RMX 1000 or something like that, whatever you're using. And you can just basically send out from there. And also your MIDI LFO. So there's a lot of MIDI stuff up at the top there. So if you're using other software like Ableton Live or something like that, and you want to sync your BPMs and everything to that, you can start and stop. It sends beat information every bar, so you can really lock this in with whatever software you're using. You're not tied to Serato DJ with this mixer. It's going to be an all-rounder for all kinds of different uses basically, so that's great. The auto and BPM, I've kind of gone over that. You can set it manually, so you can set it to auto, you can tap it in, or you can use the controls, dial it in manually exactly as you want, and then quantize. Put it into the auto mode. Then you've got the X pad. So if we just go into, let's say, the delay. So the X pad is like a touch pad. You can press it and then you release it, the effect stops. So it's like instant gratification kind of feel on the effect. Very useful. You just want a little quick add something in really quickly. So there we have it then, the Pioneer DJM-900 SRT. Yes, I'm madly in love with it. It's wicked. It's a high-end install mixer. It costs a fortune. People are going to install these in clubs, and as much as they do probably with the Nexus. It's one of those where if your market where you're installing your club for, if the DJs generally use Serato products, then you probably want to install this one. If they mostly use Traktor products, then you're going to want to install the Nexus. Simple as that. You're not cutting yourself off from either platform. Obviously, it's still just a regular Pioneer mixer in many ways, so you can just plug in a Traktor box to this one, or you could plug in an SL box to the 900 Nexus, and that's all just going to work perfectly well as it does today. No problem at all. But you know, if you're leaning one way or the other, or if you're buying this for home, if you're rich, then you know you can have this in your house and you're a Serato user. It's just going to be so easy. Just connect up your sources and off you go. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I've really enjoyed doing this one, as you can tell. I have got my video coming soon on the DDJ SP1, so look out for that as well. It's the ideal companion for this 900 SRT. For more videos, walkthroughs, tutorials and so on, please do subscribe to my channel. It's at Mojaxx VDJ on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.